Guys, when you think of great Counter-Strike players, who comes to your mind? Garmer, maybe. Kenny S, potentially. Nico, Donk. If you said ZywOo, I'll have to ask you to reconsider. But today, we will be going over the GOAT of every single Counter-Strike organization. I'm going to talk about some ones from the past that you may have forgotten about, a lot of the current ones, and we got quite a few teams to go over, so let's just hop right into it. Some of these are a little harder to gauge who the actual GOAT of the team is, but for a team like Astralis, it's pretty straightforward. You know, there are a couple players you could have in contention for this. Device, Glaive, and Dupree are the main three that I think of, but I mean, it has to be Device. 4-time major winner, 2-time major MVP, a 1.17 rating during his first stint on Astralis. He leaves to go to NIP and comes back, and this shocked me. I thought, you know, he's washed, and it kind of seems like compared to Prime Device he is, but on his second stint back on Astralis when he rejoined, I think it was 2021, he has a 1.18 rating. He also placed in the top 20 multiple times. During Astralis' era, he was always the best player on the team. Early on in his career, he did have some playoff issues, but he got that figured out and then became one of the greatest players in Counter-Strike history. It's just easily Device. Aurora is a little bit weird because they've had some incredibly good players when they were a tier 2 team. For example, Grix posted a 1.21 rating during his time playing for them. They also had other good players such as Deco and Resalt. It's just got to be one of the players from the old Eternal Fire team. It's the only players that have been tier 1 in the Aurora org. And out of all the players on Aurora, how can it not be Zantares? During his time in this organization, he's posted a 1.21 rating, which is significantly higher than the next two best, Wakadia and Woxic, who are tied at a 1.10. I mean, he's the best Turkish player of all time. He's the Terminator. It really couldn't be anyone else. Now, heading over to Big, it's another interesting situation because in my heart, I want to pick someone like Tabson, who has been on the team for a fucking millennia, but he's never really been elite. Along with Tabson, we have other GOATs like Smooya, but I'd say that's a little bit of a stinky take. It's once again, of course, Zantares. His time on this team was actually insane. If you go to Big's HLTV profile, 4 out of the 5 trophies they've won was with Zantares on the team. They had never won a tournament before he joined the team. And listen, I get it's all online, but I mean, like, the point still stands. These guys weren't doing nothing. He was an absolute animal on this team. He has the highest rating in Big's history with a 1.14. He was carrying them to online tournament wins. The time that we had that small Big era during online CS was mostly because of Zantares. I mean, Zantares is just a GOAT, man. He's the best player on 2 different organizations. Speaking of which, I'm not going to be talking about EF because, you know, you can probably assume why. Cloud9 pisses me off to no end because the point I just had made about Zantares, kind of similar to like multiple players on Cloud9, where the org hadn't really won many tournaments, but they won 3 and a major with Automatic, Stewie, and Skadoodle. So in my heart, I want to put like a Skadoodle, an Automatic, a Stewie 2K, even Tarek crossed my mind because I mean, they won a major, man. Like this team was so much fun to watch, but I can't. I just can't because none of those players individually were as good as Shiro.
It's coming out.
Я не понимаю по-английски, вообще не понимаю.
That's incredible.
He only won 1 tournament on the team, IEM Dallas, but it is the second most prestigious tournament this organization has ever won. And during his time on the team, he swamps every other single player who has ever donned a Cloud9 jersey with a 1.22 rating. The next closest is Swag with a 1.13, and he played 33 maps. Shiro played 229. You look at other players like Automatic. Automatic was great. He had a 1.10. Tarek a 108. Stewie a 108. Shroud a 107. Skadoodle a 105. No one else is even close to Shiro. And along with this, during his time on the team, he was the 3rd best player in the entire world, followed up by the 8th best player in the entire world. No other player in Cloud9's history has had a peak like Shiro had. So I wish I could give it to a North American, but I just can't. Shiro is the GOAT of Cloud9. Complexity's a fun one, man. And before we get into it, I just want to say, rip my boys. Listen, Jason, like, you're a legend of this scene. Complexity's been around for years and years and years. You know, I hope they come back. But with that being said, there are 4 players that really you could choose between for this team. And I'm going to go with Elige, Hiko, this is not going to make you happy, but blame F, and of course, fraud. Now, the best rating in Complexity's history is a tie between Hiko and Swag. And I didn't include Swag because he played like 40 maps with this team. He wasn't on it for very long. It was like a few months. And honestly, that's kind of where Hiko slides down as well. He only played about 50 maps with the team. And longevity does matter when talking about the GOAT of an organization. Then there's Elige, who was very good. He had a 111 on this team, but they didn't really do anything. And I know he had a hard carry. He was a top 20 player. They did win a tier 2 tournament. But I don't think Elige's time on Complexity was as good as Blame F's. This is going to make some people a little upset, but Blame F's time in Complexity was actually very good. He had a 1.14 rating, and I know people are going to say the bait F stuff. He's just a baiter. But with him being the IGL, the best fragger on the team, Complexity won the only tournament they have on their entire HLTV page, Blast Premier Spring 2020 Europe Finals. And listen, I get this was online as well, but like Blame F was a freak, and you might say, oh, Blame F had a better team than Elige. Did he really? This is the team that Blame F won the tournament with. Poison, Config, Oboe, and Rush. What happened to all 4 of those players shortly after their time in Complexity? Absolutely fucking nothing. So, to me, it looks like Buddy just hard carried them to a tournament win while fragging, while calling. Listen, his time on this team is very good. But unfortunately for him, nobody can compare to how unbelievable Fraud was with this team. The GOAT of Complexity is Fraud. There's almost no question about it. With him being the star opper on the team, they would win 2 majors in 1.6. And Fraud would end his time in the game with a 1.14 rating. If you're winning your team tournaments, you're one of the best teams in NA history throughout 1.6, have one of the best ratings in the game. I mean, it's got to be Fraud. This guy was generational, okay? 3D Max has kind of been mid tier 2 for most of their existence. I'd say right now they're about tier 1.5, which makes finding their GOAT fairly easy. I'm not going to string this one out. I just think personally the GOAT of 3D Max is Maka. He's the best fragger on the team, the opper. He is the caller. I mean, not anymore. Now that role has been switched over to Gravity, but he did call this team up out of the trenches of tier 2 with a bunch of fairly no-name players. Like, sure, most people knew who Lucky was from his time on G2, but other than that, like, who really knew who any of these guys were? And his fragging and his calling helped elevate them into being like a solid top 15 team in the world. So I mean, for me, it's gotta be Maka. He basically made this team relevant in my eyes. ENCE is another interesting one because they've had some GOATs on the roster. The all-time best rating for this organization is from Alu, who has a 1.10 and 750 maps played for the team. But Sunpius is tied with him at a 1.10. Spinks is also tied with a 1.10. So it makes it incredibly tough to judge which one of these players is the best. You know, they won IEM Dallas with Sunpius and Nerds going absolutely nuclear. So for me, that does kind of bump them up. But then when you actually go and look at ENCE's page, they also won 2 tournaments in 2018 and 2019. So you would think maybe that bumps Alu up. Listen, they won the most tournaments with him. He has the highest rating in the team's history. But then when you go back and look at Sunpius, who is tied with his rating, he was the 6th best player in the world on this team. Prime Sunpius was different, man. He literally carried them to that IEM Dallas win. He won MVP. So it should be Sunpius. But I'm not going to do that because there is one man, one position I have not been giving enough respect to, and that's the IGL position. Give me Alexi B for ENCE. He won the most tournaments with the organization. He basically made them relevant with calling them into the grand final of a major. The best this team has ever looked, in my opinion, was with Alexi B calling them. He brought a bunch of tier 2 players, and I guess Alu, who was in tier 1 for a while but never really could find his footing. He made them like consistently good and relevant. So in my opinion, it just has to be Alexi B. I mean, look at what he did for this organization. It is incredible. EnVy is an old legendary organization. They've won multiple tournaments. They won a major in 2015. And this one is fairly obvious. It's just Kenny S. It has to be Kenny S. Prime Kenny S was just a freak, man. He's the highest rated player in this organization's history, won a major with them. He was also the major MVP. And during his time on EnVy, he was also the 6th and 13th best player in the world. It really couldn't be anyone else. For me, Falcons is also fairly obvious. You would think it would be kind of tough between Nico and MONOZZ, but Nico really hasn't been that insane since he joined Falcons. Now, to be fair, the only tournament Falcons has won was against MONOZZ and with Nico top fragging. But since he's joined this team, he's just been elite for the most part. He has a 1.23 since joining, and Nico does have a 1.17, but I'm just gonna give it to MONOZZ. Maybe if it wasn't for the big slump Nico had over the past month, I could see him maybe being closer. But honestly, this was kind of an easy decision for me. Maybe it could be Kiyosuke in the future, but for the time being, it's gotta be MONOZZ. Now, when we get to FaZe, we can start having a conversation. This, for me, is really between Nico, ropz, and Karrigan. Nico is, of course, the highest rated player in this organization's history with a 1.15. Right behind him is ropz with a 112, but ropz did win a major. And then, of course, Karrigan, who basically has been running this team since he has joined. And a part of me does want to give it to Nico or ropz, but I just have to give it to Karrigan. And I think the main reason why is looking at what happened before and after he got kicked from the team. Karrigan was benched from FaZe in 2018 after they were the 4th best team in the world. You then just see consistent downward trends on their world ranking until Karrigan rejoins, and then they immediately skyrocket back up to number 1. They win a major. And like during the time he left, he turned MOUZ into one of the best teams in the world. I mean, it's just gotta be Karrigan. He's been the heart and soul of FaZe for years. Pretty much everything this organization has done in Counter-Strike can be attributed to him, and I just don't think there's anyone else that really can get this award. We got to keep the IGL love going. Fnatic's kind of in the same boat as Astralis for me, where they have so many legendary players, it can be kind of hard to decide. You know, there's JW, Olaf, Pronax, Crims, and Flusha. And I know I've been showing love to the IGLs. Pronax did win 3 majors with this team. That is insane. I think I've got to just give it to Olaf. If a player was the #1 ranked player in the world, it's kind of hard for me to not give them the GOAT of an organization. You know, Olaf at his peak was unbelievable. The amount of insane moments he has, which seems to all be on Overpass. You have the boost, you have the defuse and the molly. You know, I think pure output along with cultural impact, it's gotta be Olaf Meister. But I mean, to be fair, I honestly wouldn't be mad if you did think it was Pronax. But I mean, along with being the #1 player of 2015, 2-time major winner, 1-time major MVP, the 12th best player of 2014, the 8th best player of 2016, and the 19th best player of 2017. Along with the majors, he won a bazillion trophies, and he actually doesn't have the highest rating in Fnatic's history. He does have a 1.11, but recently he's been passed up by Jambo and Blame F. Maybe the GOAT of Fnatic is Blame F. Furia is a fairly easy one. Give me K Serato. This guy's been loyal to Furia since he joined the team. He doesn't want to leave and go somewhere else. And because of that, he has 1,378 maps played with this team. His longevity tied with his 1.19 rating, which is the highest in Furia's history. It can't be anyone else. He's also been in the top 24 times. He just has to be the Furia GOAT. No one else even really comes close. We've got quite a few GOATs in G2's history. MONOZZ, Nico, Scream, Kenny S. Kenny S's all-time rating on the team was a 111. Scream's was a 111. They were both very good. But let's be real here, guys. I don't think either of them compared to Nico or MONOZZ. This is the first team in this entire video where I genuinely think it's a complete coin flip. You could pick Nico or MONOZZ, and I would hear you out. I think it really is that close. MONOZZ's all-time rating with the team is a 1.23, while Nico's is a 1.2. And after Nico joined G2, they didn't really start winning tournaments until MONOZZ joined. When we look at the top 20s and that major run, it makes it so much more tough for me, because Nico really did hard carry this team to the finals of a major, and they didn't have an AWPer. And when you look at the top 20s, like, Nico was just so consistently elite. In 2020, he was the 4th best player. In 2021, he was the 3rd best player. In 2022, he was the 5th best player with MONOZZ at 7. In 2023, he was the 2nd best player with MONOZZ at 4. And then in 2024, MONOZZ was 2 and Nico was number 4. He was a top 5 player in every single year he was with the team. His consistency with them was insane. And dude, that major final run was insane. Like, it brings him up so much. And I do want to go with Nico. And honestly, Originally, I picked Nico to be the best player in G2's history, but I think I might have to go with MongolZ. Like I said earlier, they didn't actually start winning tournaments until he joined the team, and Nico consistently was like a better player year after year than him besides 2024. So like maybe it is Nico. I don't fucking know, man. This is the hardest one maybe in the entire video. Okay, I think I'm gonna stay with my original answer. I think the GOAT of G2 is Nico. But if you were to say MongolZ, I really wouldn't be mad. Like, you can make an argument for either one, but I personally am going to say it's got to be Nico. These fuckers won a major. It's hard for me to not include them in this video. For Gambit, I really wanted to make it Zeus. Honestly, even Doja. But kind of similar to Cloud9, it just has to be Shiro. This guy is actually insane. He, of course, has the highest rating in the organization's history with a 1.23. And while it wasn't a major, he did go on to win the most tournaments this organization has ever won before. Zeus came into this team and won 3. With Shiro, they won 7. And a lot of them were online. But, like, we know Shiro can obviously do it on LAN, so what are you gonna do? They had to play online. And along with this, during his time in the team, he was the 4th and the 3rd best player in the world. How can it not be him? He was just simply insane. GamerLegion has never won a tournament before, but they did make it to the finals of a major. And because of that, I just have to make the greatest player of all time either Suhei or EMA. And I think I'm going to go with EMA. He's one of the longest tenured players in the organization's history. And along with that, during his time, he posted a 1.14 rating, made it to the finals of a major. And during that major run was the 2nd highest rated player with a 1.35. I do get the Suhei glaze. The team wasn't great, and, you know, he could frag, he could call, he could do it all. But I'm just simply going to go with EMA. He was a freak during his time on this team. You guys remember GODSENT? Now, a very obvious choice for the best player in GODSENT's history is Joel. I mean, his game sense was immaculate. His aim was pristine. He was a very good player. But I'm going to go with Flusha. When the whole Fnatic GODSENT swap happened, it was awful, but it did happen during Flusha's prime. During his time on this team, he posted a 1.2 rating. And while I didn't actually win anything, I mean, listen, Flusha's individual form on GODSENT was something to be marveled at. He was genuinely an animal. So sorry, Joel, you're getting bumped out by the Flusher. For me, Heroic is fairly obvious. They've had a trillion billion Danish players go in and out their doors, even more recently, non-Danish players. But I attribute most of their success to one man, and that is Cadian. Heroic, during their prime, was through and through Cadian's team. And it's been a while since we've shown some IGL love, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. Every single trophy this organization has literally ever won was under Cadian. He brought them to a peak of #1 in the world, brought them to a finals of a major, had highlight of the year, and as an IGL, while calling, he hit the top 20 in 2023, being the 18th best player. You know, for me, it really couldn't be anyone else. I get Stown and Yabby were both very good, but the best years in Heroic's entire history was because of Cadian. He brought the team together. He IGL. Very similar to Kerrigan on FaZe. He was just the heart and soul of everything until he got stabbed in the back. Liquid is between 4 guys for me, and that's Simple, Elige, Twist, and Naf. Now, you would think the obvious answer would be Simple.
Simple just jumping casually into the side. He's going to fall down again. What is this clutch from Simple? Are you serious? What is that?
And I mean, listen, Liquid were very good with him on the team, but he wasn't really at his prime yet. He wouldn't hit that until he left and joined Na'Vi. And he is the highest rated player in the organization's history with a 1.15, followed by Twist with a 1.11. Then it's Elige with a 108 and Naf with a 107. And so while I do get if you want to make Simple the best player in Liquid's history, I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm just not going to, because in my eyes, the best time in Team Liquid's time in Counter-Strike was 2019. And the best players on that Team Liquid 2019 team were Elige, Naf, and Twist. But the best was Elige with a 1.2 rating. And I think I am just going to go with Elige for the GOAT of Liquid. He feels through and through like he is Liquid. Elige is Liquid. Liquid is Elige. He doesn't have the highest rating in the team's history, but during his 8 years with the organization, he'd placed in the top 25 times. Number 4 is the highest anyone has ranked in Team Liquid's history. So, I mean, he has the best peak. They had the most success with him being the best player on the team. And along with all of this, like, Elish has been in this team forever. He was there when they made that major final. He was there when they got coldzera in the semifinal. You know, he's basically done everything that there is to do with this organization. I feel like it just can't be anyone else. I'm gonna do Luminosity / SK because I just like grouping them into one. And for that, it's really between coldzera and Fallen for me. But like I said earlier with Olaf Meister, if a player gets #1 in the world, it's hard for me to not make them the GOAT of an organization. So for Luminosity and SK, it's gotta be Cold. This guy's peak was like unlike anything we had ever seen for a rifler. 2-time major winner, 2-time MVP, back-to-back #1 rankings, and then number 10. During his time with Luminosity, he posted a 1.2 rating, and during his time with SK, a 1.23. These guys were the best team in the world for a few years, and coldzera was consistently the best player. He's just a Counter-Strike legend, and he's easily the GOAT of Luminosity and SK. MongolZ are another coin flip for me because I could really see it being between Blitz and Senzu. Blitz is the IGL that kind of brought them out of irrelevancy and made them good, while Senzu is the team star player. So I guess it really depends which you value more. For me, I'm gonna have to go with Blitz, and a part of the reason is look at their world ranking. Look at how low and inconsistent they are throughout their entire existence. You see that giant spike up? That is immediately after they added Blitz to the team. That is one of the craziest jump ups from one player that I've ever seen. And then with him IGLing, they just consistently got better and better and better. In my opinion, he is not the sole reason, but a very big part of what makes MongolZ and how they became so good. And I get Senzu being the star player and the best player on the team that's now a top 3 team in the world. But for me, I just think I have to go with Blitz. For MOUZ, I could see it being between 4 different players: Nico, Kerrigan, Suhei, and Rops. Nico, of course, started his career on this team. He was absolutely incredible trying to hard carry them. They were so bad when he was playing with them, but he would still consistently drop like 1.2 ratings. During his time on this team, he posted a 1.17, which is worse than Alu, who was on this team for a little bit. He posted a 1.19, but I'm not gonna make Alu the GOAT of MOUZ. I don't even know what we're talking about here. But Nico is, of course, very closely followed by Rops with a 1.15. And then, of course, the 2 IGLs, Kerrigan and Suhei. As soon as Suhei joined this team, they just became infinitely better and were consistently a top 5 team in the world. And, of course, Kerrigan, who did kind of the same thing. He joined MOUZ, and very shortly afterwards, they just became a consensus top 5 team. But I think I'm gonna have to give it to Rops. After he joined is when this team felt like they were actually a serious threat. Their first ever tournament on their HLTV page is with Rops on the team, and that was very shortly right after he joined. And during his time on the team, he was in the top 20 4 times, being ranked number 19, number 10, number 7, and number 18. And along with all of this, his longevity with MOUZ is insane. He has played the 2nd most maps in their history. So when you combine his longevity, how he was just an incredibly good player, MOUZ actually became threatening and started winning tournaments after he joined, I think it just has to be Rops. Na'Vi is, of course, simple. I'm not gonna even act like it could be anyone else. Sure, you could say Zeus. I'd say, honestly, he's a very close second. Na'Vi were probably the best 1.6 team in the world, and that was behind his calling and fragging. But they kind of didn't really do much after they joined CSGO. And just like the points I made earlier, I mean, Simple is maybe the GOAT of Counter-Strike. So how can he not be the GOAT of Na'Vi? You know what? It's hard for it to not be him. He, of course, has the highest rating in the organization's history with a 1.26. He won a major with them. He has 1,247 maps played with the team. Along with this, his time on Na'Vi, he was the 4th best player, 8th best player, 1st best player, 2nd best player, 2nd best player, 1st best player, 1st best player, and 7th best player in the world. I mean, it's motherfucking simple, man. Of course, he's the GOAT of Na'Vi. For NIP, it's absolutely between Get Right and Forest. Forest was probably better for a longer amount of time. But Get Right was one of the greatest 1.6 players of all time. And then going into CSGO, he was the #1 player in the world. I said it, guys. Listen, if you're the #1 player in the world, it's hard for me to not give it to you. Along with this, he is a major winner. He's in the new HLTV Hall of Fame, back-to-back best player in the world in 2013 and 2014, then the number 11th best player and number 18th best player in the next 2 years. He is the best player on a legendary team. It has to be Get Right. I had to throw these boys in here just for old time's sake. Do you guys remember North? The highest rating in North's history is actually tied between 2 players, and that's Valde, Magisk, and Config, but I'm not going to give it to any of them because we're going back to IGL love, man. The GOAT of North, in my opinion, has to be MSL. During his time in North, they would win 4 tournaments behind his calling, and after he would leave in 2018, they would literally never win another one again. He was the heart and soul of North, even sometimes top fragging in finals of tournaments they were in. So while fragging wasn't his strong suit, he definitely could do it. But yeah, the peak of this team's powers is when MSL was calling, and after he left, they were kind of doomed to mediocrity for the rest of their existence until they disbanded and went out of business. You guys remember Prime Breeze? I'm going to kind of do what I did with Luminosity and SK, and I'm going to combine NRG and EG. I know, listen, we don't want to talk about EG, but I'm going to just to make this easier. Breeze was a freak when he was playing on these teams. He was the 8th best player in the world in 2019 and the 20th best player in the world in 2020. He would also go on to win various tournaments, being the MVP at 3 of them. He's the 2nd highest rated player in NRG's history with a 1.12. He's tied with Cert. And the 3rd highest rated player in EG's history with a 1.08. So while he might not be the highest stats rated player on these teams, he was consistently great. He was the only one to ever make the top 20, and he did it twice. It just has to be Breeze, man. I miss him. I miss Prime Breeze. You guys know OpTic had a team in Counter-Strike, right? Now, I want to give this to Rush or Tarek or even Naf. In the one tournament OpTic ever won, Rush was the MVP. But unfortunately for them, I think I'm gonna have to give it to Mixwell. During his time on OpTic, he had a 1.15 rating. People thought maybe he could be the next big thing. Now, he of course wouldn't be, but like he was very good on OpTic. And like, I don't think I'd be mad if you argued for Rush or Naf or Tarek or someone else on OpTic. But like, Mixwell was just consistently their best player. I think I just have to give it to him. The best player in Pain's history is absolutely BigUzera. We're back to the IGL glaze. It's just like every other IGL I've glazed. He just feels like the heart and soul of Pain. It feels like you can replace every other single player on the roster, but as long as Pain has BigUzera, they're still Pain. They become a very good top 20 team with him. They made the semifinals of a major. He can frag, he can call. He's the longest tenured player in Pain's history, and during that time, he has a 1.13 rating, which for an IGL isn't bad at all. So it really can't be anyone else. Renegades and 100 Thieves. I'm mixing them together as well. There's a couple options for this. You know, there's of course JKS. You got the nifty 50. Jacob, who was consistently a beast on this team for years. And if you didn't know, Naf played for this team, and when he did, he was a freak. During his time on Renegades, he would post a 1.26 rating, and its organization would win its only ever tournament. But I'd say the real prime for Renegades was when they were bought up by 100 Thieves. They were like consistently a top 5 team after that. And of course, their best player during this time period was JKS. So I think I simply gotta give it to them. He was the 15th best player in the world in 2019, the 19th best player in 2020. And while the team wouldn't really go on to win any tournaments, for that time period where they were very solid, if your best player is JKS, the best player in these teams' history has to be JKS. I mean, Spirit's donk. This guy has the trajectory to be literally the GOAT of all of Counter-Strike. I've never seen a more clear trajectory to GOAT status than donk. I mean, maybe ZywOo when he first came into tier 1 and was insane, but I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. He's been in Spirit for 2 years, has won a major, carried his team to a major win with the help of Magix, was major MVP, has been the #1 player in the world already, has won a trillion different awards, won various tier 1 tournaments, has 10 MVPs already. I mean, he's just a freak. I don't even need to say anything else. Everyone knows it's donk. He is so unbelievably insane. For Tyloo, my initial thought was it has to be Bented. Bented is a freak, but without a doubt, he has already been surpassed by Jam Young. Tyloo won their first ever tier 1-ish tournament with him absolutely going nuclear. During the one tournament day one, he posted a 1.3 rating and carried the fuck out of them. He was the MVP, and during his total time in the team, he has a 1.13 rating. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Bentet. Jam Young has surpassed you. Tyloo's had the most success ever on his back. And of course, along with all of this, the Jam Young Deagle clip.
So he's been like, oof.
Whoa, whoa! Where did that come from? Jam Young!
How can you forget it? Unfortunately, Vitality's GOAT has to be ZywOo. I know. I'm sad about it as well. There's not really much more to be said about him that hasn't already been said. Two-time major winner, two-time major MVP, #1 player of 2019 and 2020. His worst ever placement in the top 20 has been #3. He's, of course, by a fucking mile, been the highest rated player in Vitality's history with a 1.32. That's with 1,265 maps played as well. It's ZywOo, man. Everyone knew it was going to be ZywOo. And finally, we have Virtus.pro. Now, this is kind of between 4 different players. You have Jame, Yakinder, Snacks, and Pasha Biceps. If you guys don't remember Prime Yakinder on this team, holy frickin' moly, man. He was a freak. He was the #8th best player in the world in 2021. The #15th best player in 2022. He would go on to win 2 tournaments with them, but unfortunately, he was not on the major winning VP team, which makes me lean more towards Jame. I mean, Jame is a major winner, major MVP, the 10th best player of 2021, the 20th best player of 2022. I mean, listen, he calls for them, he frags for them. He is actually a demon, but it's just so hard to discredit the Virtus.pro guys. You can't. So while Jay might be the second highest rated player in Virtus.pro's history right behind Doja, we gotta look at Snacks and Pasha Biceps. What they did during their era was unbelievable. They won various tournaments, won a major, made the finals of another major. Pasha Biceps would be the major MVP. He would also be the 19th best player of 2013 and the 3rd best player of 2014, while Snacks would be the 4th best player of 2014, the 4th best player of 2015, the 5th best player of 2016, and the 20th best player of 2017. So while there is a part of me that is a little torn between Jame and Pasha and Snacks, I think the go to VP has to be Snacks. VP won a trillion tournaments with him as the best player on the team. And while Pasha might have had a higher ceiling, Snacks was consistently better over the long term. Plus, I mean, it's Snacks, man. I do want to put Jame in here, but I think it just has to go to Snacks. The best time in VP's history was during this Virtus.pro era. And in my opinion, you could argue for Pasha. Snacks was the best player on that team. So if you're the best player on the best era of Virtus.pro's history, I think it's just gotta be you. Snacks is the GOAT of VP. So that's it, guys. And yes, listen, there is no like easy way to determine who the GOAT is for a lot of these organizations. Some are incredibly obvious, while others are more eh. So the ones that are is all my opinions. If you disagree with me, let me know. And if you want me to go over the worst player in all of these organizations' history, let me know. Maybe subscribing to me, maybe liking the video, maybe notificationing me, and I will see you guys later.